My name is Dave Tran, and this is LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have chiropractor Dr. Shawn Dill in San Francisco, California. Dr. Shawn graduated from Logan University in 1995. He's a personal mentor and also the co-founder of the Art of the Specific. Dr. Shawn, welcome to LuxTV.
Thank you, Dave. Good to see you.
Yeah, so let's get straight to it. So how did you get your start in chiropractic?
Well, I don't want to spend too much time there because I know you have some things planned, but basically my story is a lot like most chiropractors. My cousin was a chiropractor, so Dr. Steven Hernandez. He practiced in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, well, just outside of Milwaukee in a town called Mequon. And when I was growing up, I had always admired him. I was enamored with his success, number one. And then number two, also with, what he did. He was a doctor. He helped a lot of people in his community. People loved him. And, basically since very early on, probably around junior high school, he started serving as a mentor. And then even he gave me a couple big pushes when I was in undergrad. It's easy to get into undergrad and then decide I'm going to stay here because it was fun. And so he was instrumental in helping to push me along, drove me to go to Logan. He went to Palmer, but he said it didn't really matter. That's one thing that I would probably disagree with today. He said it didn't really matter where I went to school, but I needed to get to school. But in the end, everything worked out. I'm thankful that I was able to find chiropractic through something called Dynamic Essentials in Atlanta. My Logan experience, while probably didn't truly form me as a chiropractor, it served as a platform to give me the tools that I was able to find chiropractic through the green books, the philosophy, etc.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. And I know that you spent a lot of time in Costa Rica, as well as helping establish chiropractic there. So what are some takeaways that you kind of learned throughout that journey?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, I graduated in 1995. This was a unique time in chiropractic. Basically, it's a unique time in healthcare. There was this thing that was occurring that was the emergence of managed healthcare. HMOs and PPOs, the insurance age sort of winding up and then moving into this sort of new model of managed healthcare. And a lot of times, or a lot of chiropractors actually sort of saw this as the end of chiropractic. And so for me, being in school, that wasn't a very good thing to be hearing, that this was the end of chiropractic. And so I began to look internationally. I had looked at going to Nicaragua at first. That was my first choice. I had some contacts and some friends there, and to be honest, I had gone down there during my last year at Logan and kind of checked things out, and I had a good vibe. I thought that it would work out, but the people there actually told me that I was nuts. The people from Nicaragua, and they said, "Listen, if you like it here, go check out Costa Rica. I think that you'll like that." And so I did. I went on Thanksgiving, November of 1995. I graduated in December of 1995, so I went in November of 1995. Checked out Costa Rica, loved it, and decided to move there after I graduated. And when I graduated, I was only 24 years old. I didn't have any family, didn't have anything to lose, and I really didn't want to play that insurance game. So I went down to Costa Rica, and honestly, things were very, very rough for the first year, mostly because I always say, like, when I was a student, and I know that for the students that watch your programming, nobody would have this attitude, but for me as a student, I knew everything. I knew everything there was to know. I didn't need any help, and so I went to Costa Rica. But there's one small minor detail that I didn't really contemplate, and that was that I didn't speak Spanish. And that's a very typical American attitude, right? Like, and growing up, I lived in Okinawa, Japan. I had lived all over the world. And, for whatever reason, it just really didn't occur to me that was going to be a major hang-up. So my first year, imagine going into a country that really doesn't have chiropractic. There were 4 chiropractors when I arrived, and I couldn't really speak the language, and I'm practicing something that, the common people there had no idea what it was. The other 4 chiropractors, mostly, they were seeing Americans. And I was trying to serve the Costa Rican population, and I couldn't very well communicate with them. And so the first year was terrible. It was just absolutely terrible. In the second year, I caught a couple breaks. I was able to make an appearance on national television there, and things began to grow. And it was during the second year that I actually brought on my first associate. So things just blew up, where I went from, at the end of 1 year, seeing approximately 4 patients a day. At the end of my second year, I was already approaching 200 patient visits a day. And so we brought on an associate, opened up a second clinic, and it was about that time that my good friend Andy Roberts, he moved down to Costa Rica. And so we could see the potential and the growth that was happening, basically in our lives at that time, and recognize the need to create a law. And so we set about the process of trying to figure out how to regulate, how to legalize chiropractic in a country. And granted, at this point, I'm like 25, 26 years old, and I'm trying to write a law in a country that I'm not from, in a language that's not my native language. And, things just, luckily for us, when you're in the right place at the right time, things just really fell into place for us. And really, for our hearts were our hearts of service. And we were trying to do something that would be for the greater good, not only of our profession, but for the people. When you talk about chiropractic that's unregulated in countries internationally, it's a big issue, because that allows it kind of leaves an open door for chiropractic to be anything practiced by anybody. And there's a lot of chiropractors that see this as an opportunity, which it is. But at the same time, when we think about guarding the sacred trust, when we think about our forefathers, it's something that's super important that we're constantly working to legalize, the practice of chiropractic, which even to this day, once a year we make a trip down to El Salvador. And a lot of people have questions about our trip. And I've program is not in and of itself just a program where we're going into a country to adjust people or even to check people. The program in and of itself has but one finality, one goal, or one mission, and that's to legalize the practice of chiropractic in the country. As soon as chiropractic is legalized in El Salvador, well, I personally wouldn't make the trip. I don't see the need for doing a mission trip to the United States, because chiropractic exists here and it's being practiced. But in El Salvador, because it's not completely legalized, it's sort of in this state of questioning. There's some people that practice chiropractic there without full degrees, and then there's chiropractors that come down and kind of float in and out. And the work that we're doing there is strictly to lay the groundwork. And like I said, we've been working on this for a long time, but it's different. In Costa Rica, it took us a year, start to finish, for the law. In El Salvador, we've been working on this for over 8 years, and you have challenges like the government changing, the power of one party moving in and one party moving out. But that's really what our goal is we want to look to legalize and establish chiropractic in the countries around the world that don't have chiropractic necessarily as, legalized or established as it is in the United States.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Like, I think it's sometimes hard for students to even think about those types of things where we're kind of stuck in a chiropractic bubble, and just trying to survive chiropractic school and get, and pass boards and so forth like that. But, it's always great to be able to connect with visionary people that are going out and trying to spread chiropractic, because, without that, it's exactly what you had said. Like, anybody can just establish and say what chiropractic is and chiropractic isn't. I know that you co-founded a upper cervical technique called the Art of the Specific. So how did that come about?
Well, first of all, let's clarify. I didn't co-found or found a technique in and of itself. So the Art of the Specific is merely just it's for lack of a better word, it's a school or a training program in knee, chest, upper cervical specific. The technique in and of itself, and I always fascinates me. Chiropractors are very sort of territorial with their property. Even just in looking at the naming of clinics, right? The Dill Chiropractic Clinic. I don't know what's so special about the last names of people and us taking ownership of it. But myself, back to my Costa Rican days, I'm very cognizant of the fact that this is not mine, and it's a very sort of chiropractic thing to do, is to try and assign ownership of this. The technique was actually founded by B.J. Palmer, back in the late 20s, moving into the 1930s, and then researched by him extensively through the 30s. And so what we've developed is just a delivery system, if you will, to teach other people how to do this technique. I was fortunate enough to be taught by Dr. Michael Kale, and there's other great instructors out there that have great delivery systems. Rob Kessinger is teaching a great program down in Atlanta, and he's been around for a very long time. Another one of my mentors here on the West Coast, Dr. Louis Tiscarino, he has his program. So there's a lot of different places that you can go and learn this. And so basically what we've done is we've come up with a way of delivering this to the profession. And, I've partnered with Dr. Andy Roberts, who is, in my opinion, one of the foremost experts in chiropractic philosophy and in the technique. He's one of the most committed people that I know as far as, keeping his skills up at his age. His position isn't, I'm the master. He doesn't feel like he's arrived. And, I resonate with that. I love his thirst and his desire to keep improving. And, what I bring to the table there is a lot of different, on the business side of things, the delivery method. I feel really, really close to, all of the students who are inside of our group. And I feel like we've managed to create a group that can work together cohesively all throughout the United States and even throughout the world in order to be constantly learning this technique. Beyond that, we have made a few modifications. I would clarify, too, that I think one of the interesting things inside of the upper cervical world, especially in the knee, chest, upper cervical specific world, is this sort of kind of desire to do things like BJ did them. I don't know why that makes something better or worse. It just is a thing that gets thrown around a lot. But what we do in the art of the specific is very different than what's in volume 18. Now, that could be viewed as a negative. A lot of the old school people have a lot of issues like, oh, you've changed things. But it could also be viewed as a positive. I know that, for your generation of the students coming up, we have advances in technology. At our office, we have digital x-ray. Well, BJ Palmer didn't have digital x-ray. We have computerized infrared thermography, and BJ Palmer was using thermocouple technology. So things have changed, and necessarily once you understand the principles, you can make advancements in the application in and of itself. It's kind of like looking back to see ahead. I don't think that you can make changes unless you know where we've come from. So I think you need to understand the different x-ray marking methodologies that are in volume 18 and then subsequently are taught at other areas in upper cervical before we can talk about advances that we've done using biomechanical films, looking at motion, looking at lateral flexion and rotation through our x-ray marking systems. And then same thing for utilizing the instrumentation. You have to understand the neurocalorimeter and the neurocalligraph, what it does and what they were looking for, before we can start talking about the application with computerized infrared thermography. But if BJ was alive today, and that was one of the things I posted recently on social media, also thrown around rampantly. If BJ was alive today, and then fill in the blank, well, we don't know what he would be doing. But what we do know is that he wouldn't be doing what he did in 1931. Because in 1931, he wasn't doing the same thing he was doing in 1921. It was completely different. And so the art was evolving, chiropractic practice was evolving, and our job is to keep it evolving. But at the same time, evolve it and stay on the rails, right? Some people want to evolve it into something that it's not, but the idea is to perfect the application and without really changing the pure essence or true essence of what chiropractic is.
Absolutely. And what is your greatest advice for a chiropractic student?
Wow, so I'm going to go a little bit outside the box on this one in all reality. I would say two things for the chiropractic student. Number one is become really, really dedicated to chiropractic. And what I mean by that is that as a student, I think that one of your sole objectives needs to be to discover exactly what chiropractic is and what it is not. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult task because students are exposed to so many things. And I can't think of really, I used to teach at Life West, and I look at the student perspective and the student experience today, and it just blows my mind in all reality, because if you compare and contrast that to other professions, like I can't imagine going to law school and having mass confusion about what law really is. Right? I just can't even imagine that. I can't imagine going to medical school and the president of the medical college, just kind of coming in and telling the incoming class, medical college is all about cancer. And, there's many kinds of cancers. There's, physical cancers, mental cancers, chemical cancers. There's all kinds of cancers. Now, we're not going to really argue about different kinds of cancers or even argue about what it is. You can just define it how you want. But here's the trick, Dave. In order to be successful, just go out into your community and tell everyone you meet that they have cancer, and then do something to them. We're not even really going to argue about what it is that you do. Just do something and then tell them that their cancer is gone, and you'll be wildly successful. It's a shame today that I'm not aware of any one chiropractic college in this world where there is a very clear definition of chiropractic, a clear definition of subluxation, how to identify it, how to address it. And then once we have that, then the business of chiropractic is relatively easy because we know what we have and we know what we're working with, and we communicate that out into the public, right? And so that would be number one. You have to be on an absolute committed quest to determine and figure out what chiropractic is. And as a student, you cannot accept that you're paying. For me too, that was a huge realization for me. You're paying $150, or maybe in some cases now upwards of $200,000 to enter into a profession and receive an education where they absolutely refuse to tell you what it is you're studying. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, nobody really has the guts to come out and say, let me tell you what we're studying. And I can't even imagine, the other thing that's kind of tragic is that it's becoming tragic on both sides of the coin, but most chiropractic students have had some sort of a chiropractic experience. But, people that go into, medicine for brain surgery have not had a brain surgery experience. Cardiologists who study open heart have not had an open heart surgery experience. That's not what drives them into their particular field of study. Criminal defense attorneys hopefully have not had an experience being defended, right, of some major charge. But chiropractors have usually had an experience, and then we want to duplicate that experience. And because of that, we have this very limited sort of viewpoint of what chiropractic is or can be based off of what happened to us. And that causes, even in the learning environment, in the classroom, where we have the students attempting to teach the teachers, that even blows my mind even more. I can't imagine a law student arguing with their law professor about precedents in case law when they don't even know what they're talking about. But that's what goes on in chiropractic colleges. So number one is like, hey, just figure out what chiropractic is. If you could really own what it is, then it becomes very easy to communicate and sell and deliver. Number two is understand what I call, and if you need to look this up for more information, you can go onto my blog. Somewhere on my blog, I have a blog that talks about this. But understand the Shawn Dill 90-10 rule of chiropractic, which basically says that we're being taught inside of the chiropractic college to cater to a very small subsection of our United States population. And in all reality, the way that the other group of people, the people who don't receive chiropractic care, the way that they view chiropractic care is radically different than the way that the people who currently receive care is. I think that, one common thing for you students is, have you ever tried to speak to your parents or other family members about chiropractic care and sort of run into this resistance or brick wall? And what you're seeing there is the 90% view of chiropractic and how you come across to them. Like, maybe, whoa, Dave, ease up on all that crazy non-vaccination talk. I mean, you were vaccinated. We didn't kill you. Or, things like that. And we have to be very careful about understanding that this crazy chiropractic presentation works for the 8 to 10% of the population we're currently serving. If we want to reach the other 90%, we need to change the delivery method. However, that is not to say we need to change what chiropractic is. Sometimes people hear, well, if we want to reach the 90%, we have to prescribe fish oils, and we have to do orthotics, and we have to. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we need to come across less crazy. And it's a little bit disconcerting, because definitely right now amongst the current student generation, there is more of a movement towards the crazy you are, the more well received will be. That if you don't act crazy, then you're not out to save the world. And that's not true. we have a very strong and very solid message that's based on fundamental principle truths of the way that the human body works. We don't have to act crazy to deliver that message to the mass population. And in fact, it is my opinion that we have to act more normal to deliver that information. And the more normal we are in the delivery of that, the more widely accepted that will be.
Well, that's some wonderful advice. So thank you so much for sharing with us today, Dr. Shawn. If you want some more information or want to connect with Dr. Shawn directly, check out the links below. Every week I will be uploading a new interview with another giant in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, please share it with your classmates, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Dave Tran, and this was LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic.